There is nothing that really frightens me. That's because I have already survived the worst thing that could ever happen to me, my childhood and early adolescence with a mother who was mentally ill. I can't remember my mother ever praising me for anything. I loved school, was a conscientious student, and a high achiever, but that never seemed to count for anything in her eyes. If I was reading a book, she would sing lazy bones at the top of her voice. When I helped with household chores, she found fault with everything I did, even to the point of imagining that I was deliberately trying to annoy her. As the years passed, these imaginings became bizarre paranoid delusions about me and my sister, who was 3 years younger, and other members of our extended family. When I was 11 years old, my mother became convinced I was grinding glass and putting it in my baby sister's diapers. It took me many years to figure out the source of this ghastly delusion. Then I remembered that when my mother was folding and stacking the cloth diapers so they would be ready for the baby when needed, she sprinkled Johnson's baby powder on the diaper before she made the final fold. If you've ever used Johnson's baby powder, you'll probably have noticed it has little sparkling bits in it. When she opened the diaper to put it on the baby, this is what she was actually seeing. But something in her mind was making her believe it was ground glass. As these delusions progressed, my mother became increasingly violent and physically abusive towards me and my sister in response to our imaginary offenses. We lived in constant fear because we could never predict when these eruptions would occur. We would sometimes hear her talking to someone who was invisible to us. Then she decided she could not stand the sight of us and banished us permanently to our bedrooms. She referred to me as prisoner number one and my sister as prisoner number two. We both spent many long hours in solitary confinement when we were not at school. I filled these hours doing my homework, reading books I borrowed from the school library, and talking to God. Doing my homework and reading books kept me grounded in reality, in the world of facts and truth, of human struggles and tragedies, but also human hopes and dreams and great accomplishments. The world that existed just outside the door of the crazy house where I was imprisoned and that would be there for me when I was freed. Talking to God kept me sane and whole. Although my mother had convinced herself, my teachers, and our relatives that I was a dangerous juvenile delinquent, I knew this was not true. And I was certain that God knew this too. God knew who I really was. And although they could not rescue me, they would protect me and help me survive. When I was in grade 9, we were living in a district where a student could legally quit school at 15 years old. As my 15th birthday approached in May, just 1 month before the end of the school year, my mother gave me an ultimatum. Find a job and get out before I throw you out with nothing. At that time in Manitoba, grade 9 students wrote provincial exams in June, which determined whether they passed or failed grade 9. I would not be there to write the exams, which meant I would not pass grade 9. The fact that I was on the honor roll made this a bitter pill to swallow. Even though I could leave school at 15, I could not get a work permit until I was 16. I did find a job as a live-in mother's helper, the only kind of work that I could legally do. Over the next year, I worked long hours, 6 days a week, doing all the housework, helping prepare meals, and minding 2 boys. For this, I received room and board and was paid $25 a month. On the one night a week I had off, I took a typing course, hoping this might make me more employable. It was exhausting, but my work was valued and I was treated decently. On my 16th birthday, I applied for the work permit that would open the door to a better paying job. However, I needed a place to live while I looked for a job. I had begun attending a Baptist church, and the pastor and his wife kindly offered to let me stay with them until I could find a job. Before long, I was hired to work in the bindery of a printing company. As I walked to the bus stop on the first day of my new job, I realized that I was now in control of my life, free to forge my own destiny. I believe God was speaking to me and helping me see the path forward for my life. I was determined to pursue my education, go to university, and become a teacher. It would mean going to night school for 2 years to do grade 9 all over again, then 2 more years to complete grade 10, and more years after that to complete high school. It would be a long uphill climb, but I knew I could do it. And with the encouragement and support of many kind and loving people whom God put in my path along the way, I received my high school diploma 6 years later. In my second year at university, I took a course in abnormal psychology. As I read the chapter in my textbook about schizophrenia, I realized I was reading about my mother, who had died 2 years earlier. At last, I had an explanation for her strange and terrifying behavior. She had been a tormented soul, struggling with schizophrenia without any support. I could finally forgive her, turn the last page in that chapter of my life, and move on to write the next ones myself.